So I'm sitting here with Chad and Tyler Showalter. How are you guys doing today?
Very good. Wonderful.
We're gonna go hunting later tonight. Before we go, I wanted to do another one of these podcasts. I did a podcast with you, video podcast earlier, but I wanted to do something a little more professional. And the live video for anything just never looks as good as what it should. So I wanted to do an actual good one in person. So you just want to introduce yourself and tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah, so my name's Chad Showalter. I live up here in Northwest Ohio. Co-owner of Simple Man Kennels with my good buddy Landell Hinchcliffe, and I'll probably refer to him as Goat in the rest of this podcast because that's just Goat. But Clayton, I want to do one thing real quick before we talk about coon hounds. I don't know when this podcast is going to air, but we're actually doing it on a Sunday before Memorial Day. And I do just want to take a moment here to thank all the people that gave everything so we can chase these hounds and this passion and hobby that we love. All active duty members as well. That's kind of near and dear to my heart because I do have a son that's in the Marines. So I did just want to take one moment to just say that, if that's all right.
Yeah.
So anyway, Chad Showalter, Simple Man's Kennel, up here in Northwest Ohio. I don't know how this podcast is going to go because Clayton has put me with my son, and sometimes that's a good thing and sometimes that's a bad thing, but yeah.
So when did you start coon hunting?
So I went about it a little bit of a different way. I grew up in a hunting family, but nobody coon hunted. As a matter of fact, we didn't have dogs of any kind. No beagles, no anything. But we deer hunted, we rabbit hunted the old-fashioned way, kicked the brush and shoot them when they jumped, and squirrel hunted some. And I actually got my first taste of coon hunting at a graduation party. So there'll probably be some people on here that knew Gary Bendeley. Unfortunately, he has passed on, and hopefully he's up looking down on me every once in a while. We shared many nights in the woods. But my first taste of a coon hunt was at his graduation party. He told me, he said, "Hey, we know you hunt," and I had deer hunted with Gary, and he said, "Why don't you go on a coon hunt with us tonight?" So I borrowed everything. I borrowed a light, borrowed a dog. I mean everything, and I went out, and instantly I just knew it was something I wanted to do. Still, I was a junior in high school. Went home, had to, ask my parents if I could get a hound. Of course, they said no. Of course, I didn't listen. Went out and bought one anyway. Fred Bodenberg. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with Fred. He had a female. It was a little bit of a late bloomer. He gave me a whale of a deal. I think I got the dog, a lead strap, a dog house, everything for $100. And I brought her home, put her out in the backyard. Pops came home from work, was not happy. One of those things where, you just beg for forgiveness. And and that's where I started. And so that's kind of how I got started into coon hunting. And, of course it was cool. You're 17 years old, you're out till, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning chasing hounds, and, tons of stories about that for a different day probably, but that's how I initially got my start.
How was that dog bred that you got, your first dog?
So Annie was out of a male that Fred Bodenberg had that he called Cool Rage. We're going back a long time here, Clayton. I've not looked at her papers for a long time. And then on the bottom, I believe she was out of a female called Billy. I think he had a female called Billy. This was predating a lot of his big, popular, famous crosses. But I will say this, she was an absolute coon treeing machine. She started a little bit later. She was a late bloomer. Back in that day, it was tough. It's not like it is today in the hunts. I think I had like 14 or 15 second place wins on her, and you had to have a first. And I pretty much just decided I'm kind of over it on trying to get that first place. And actually, Goat's brother Keith Hinchcliffe called me up and said, "I'm taking Annie to Defiance tonight, and I'm gonna put her in that UKC hunt, see if we can't get that first place win." I said, whatever. I said, I don't even know how many points I had on her. It was an astronomical amount. I woke up the next day and went up seen Keith, and he said, here's your first place win slip. So she did night champion out. I think everybody in their lifetime probably has a hound that teaches them as much about coon hunting as you teach yourself, or you learn from mentors or friends. And that was the dog for me, and I was fortunate enough. It was my first dog, and it just worked out great. I think Gary at that time had a female he called Superstar. She was Pac-Man bred from Stevie Akers' kennel, and she was a nice female. I think the one year Gary and I hunted about 341 nights out of the year, and so I mean, that's a little odd for most people to believe that, but we really did. There was nights we'd sit in the truck with the heater on and the windows up, and you just crack the window, see if there's tree, roll it back up. Nights we should have never been out hunting, silliness, but you're 17 years old, 18 years old, and you don't make the best decisions sometimes on that. But I'd never do it now. Never would I hunt in those conditions now, probably. But we did then.
Oh, how did you get that dog started? What did y'all?
So back then, I honestly, we just hunted dogs together, and eventually, and she'd run track. I didn't know what I was doing. You learn a lot through the years. I had no clue, but anyway, she made a couple of trees with the old dogs. Obviously, knocked the coon out to her. And then just kept hunting her, and eventually she started treeing in front of the dogs I was hunting with, or she would split tree. And honestly, she started herself. If she wouldn't have started herself at that point in time in my coon hunting knowledge base, I wouldn't have been able to help her much, So very fortunate. Just time.
Yeah.
Yeah, with her it was just time. Just being patient and giving her some time, and the natural genes kicked in, and it all worked out.
And when you were gonna take her to competition hunts, did you have anyone explain it to you, or how did you hear about competition hunts? Just those people you kind of went with? Or?
So I've been very fortunate in my hunting life to learn from people, and two of those people would have been Landell Hinchcliffe Goat and his brother Keith, Gary Bundley, and back then there was a group of young men around here in Gerber Hill, and we all hunted. So there was BJ Vance, and Steve Scott, and Jeff Moore, and Rob Fry, Gary Bundley. We was all relatively the same age. They had much more experience in the coon hounds and the hunts and stuff than I did, but we would just put make-believe casts together. They'd be like, she's good enough to put in a hunt, you got to figure out how to do it. So there'd be 3 or 4 of us to get together, and we would just pleasure hunt like it was a cast. And then and they would just teach me and train me, and on the rules and scenarios and different things, and so that's kind of how I picked it up. But I will say this, even with all of that, to go to a hunt, you still learned $20 lessons, right? I mean, there's no way around it. You can't come up with every scenario and situation that happens when you're hunting these hunts. So I learned a lot. Paid to learn a lot. Yeah.
Well, it's cheaper than some forms of education anymore.
That's true. That's true.
Tyler, you want to tell us how you got started coon hunting?
It was probably when I was 18, 19 years old. I'd been around dogs my whole life as far as beagles and that nature. We had beagles the whole time I grew up. I remember being young enough before Dad got out of coon hunting. I remembered having coon hounds at the house, but we never really went. I think I went a handful of times maybe. So me and my brother, when we turned 18, we told Dad we wanted to get into coon hunting. Dad refused, didn't want to do it. Said it was he said, if you're going to do it, it's hard, it's not something easy, you can't do it overnight, blah, blah, blah. So me and my brother went out and bought a tracking system and a dog box all in one go. I think it was like $200 for everything. We bring this dog back. We were all high and mighty. We're like, yeah, this is going to be good. Take it out home with Dad. Dad goes to one tree and refuses to go to any of the other ones. He's like, this is not a good dog at all. So from that time on, it was like game on for Dad after that.
Yeah.
It lit a fire, I don't know. So we sold her, or no, we kept her and she ended up passing away, I think. I don't know. Then we bought, I believe it was Russell. Nick Immel used to own him, Hoosiers Russell. We bought him, and that kind of lit the fire for me, if that makes sense. An actual good coon dog. He was consistent. Then we bought another one off of the Whole 9 Yards, I think it was.
If you're talking about D, that's who D was
Crown.
off of. Oh, yeah, Crown was off 9.
And he was like, we got him when he wasn't running and treeing, so that was my first time with a pup ever.
Yeah.
Dad kind of handled all that, if that makes sense. I was just kind of standing there helping. We got him running and treeing, and Dad's like, I still don't think this is going to be good enough. He's not making enough trees. He was running a lot of ground, and when he parked, he had a coon. So he ended up selling him to a guy in Texas, and the guy in Texas loves him, I guess. He loved him at that time.
Yeah.
Then we bought my personal favorite dog I've ever owned in my life was Racket. She was out of Dad's old hairy sack dog. We bred her. So we got her, and that's who, like, he's talking about Annie. That dog taught me more things than I knew about coon hunting in my life. She was already running and treeing. We just had to kind of polish her off. That dog taught me more than I knew.
Yeah.
I won't handle another female because of that dog.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of how I got into it as far as coon hunting. Just I don't even know what enticed me, honestly. We just one day, me and my brother said, let's get coon hunting.
Well, I think the the issue is all the boys were competitive growing up, and I had 4 boys, and all sports, right? Wrestling, football, baseball. All the boys were athletic, and so I made a decision. I was always passionate about coon hunting, but I made a decision that I could not coon hunt at the level I wanted to, and chase 4 boys around, and we were everywhere with wrestling, football camps, baseball, travel ball, and we were everywhere. So I took about a 10-year hiatus, sold everything, kind of like Dwayne Karras had talked about. You just kind of make a decision, and family is always first for me, always. So I just kind of put the coon hounds, out of my mind. And you always kind of have that desire in there, but it's one of those things where if you don't go, you're kind of okay. And it was memories that I made with all of my sons. You can never get that time back. So then, as Tyler finished up college football, and I think, my one son was kind of, thinking like, we need something to do. And I think that kind of is where their idea came up on getting coon hounds. But I'll tell you, Clayton, I struggled. So, they bring this, I'm going to call her a great female home. I couldn't do it. When you're used to a certain expectation, right, you just can't. I could not. I would consider myself a pleasure hunter first and foremost. But even in pleasure hunting, a dog has to perform a certain way and do certain things, and she was not it. So then we did get Russell, and he was all right, and we tried the Crown dog. We picked him up from Tim Sproul, and I did sell him to Texas to a gentleman that loved him out there. As far as that goes, but we just slowly started getting back into it, and I think Tyler's a very competitive young man, and I think that gave him an outlet once the sports got over with, and he settled into life, to fuel that competitive side he's got.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. I'm more competition based, as far as I enjoy going out and pleasure hunting with people and just enjoying my time out in the woods. But usually, if I'm in the woods, it's for a certain reason.
For a hunt.
Like
yeah.
I'm going to this hunt in 3 months, or this month I'm going to a hunt, so I'm in the woods. So it's more of the competition I like, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I've been around Goat and my dad and Keith, and then Charlie Adkins and Burchel Davis. Those guys have taught me a lot at a fast pace as far as when I started hunting.
Yeah.
They've been good people. So So that kind of helps with the competition, having people you can lean on too that have been through it, because Burchel's been hunting since dinosaurs roamed. So is Chucky.
What he's saying, Burchel and Chucky, is you all are old. That's what he's saying.
I thought he was saying they're very well experienced.
Yes, knowledgeable.
So going back to the Annie dog, where did you go from there then?
So actually, Annie was in the age of beat collars.
Yeah.
And I was hunting Annie one night, and she never got treed. I pulled the tracking system out. I think back in that day, everybody can relate. You're standing on the door jamb of your truck. You got your antenna above the truck. I never did find her. I lost her. I have no idea whatever happened to her. So went looking around, and Goat actually had a young male, and he told me, he said, I've got him running and treeing. He needs work. I can't run the hunts no more. I think it's something I'd like to see put in the hunts. Would you come and hunt him for 30 nights and tell me what you think? So I did. I went up and hunted, and it was a male dog, and I hunted him for 30 nights. And I told Good, I said, I think he could make it, but he's got some things we got to work on, and that would have been the hairy sack dog. So I ended up buying half in with Goat on hairy sack, and we ended up night champion him out, and in the process we bought females, had a lot of females. We titled out at that time, and then we started, I pretty much breed, train, hunt what I breed at the kennel. That's just kind of been the way I've always done it. So then I started hunting dogs out of hairy sack at some of the hunts, and then you find a girl, you have kids, you get married, all that stuff, and life happened, and then I took my 10-year hiatus. So that's just kind of the course there.
How was that dog bred?
Hairy sack was directly out of Sackett Jr. and Chuck Smearsall stylish Hannah female, and Hannah would have been directly out of Anna, which is a litter mate to stylish Clover or Whitey.
Yeah.
Whitey's litter mate sister.
Right. Was he pretty much finished when you got him, as far as just like treeing Coon? Did he need like cast work, or just in general?
No, Goat actually bought him when he was a 6-8 week old puppy.
Okay.
And raised him up. Hairy sack treated his first Coon at 6 months, 5 days old. I was not involved at that point in time. Goat was partners, I think, on hairy sack with somebody. I can't remember who, but ended up getting all of him. And then I think Harry was probably around a year old, 11 months, a year old, when Goat called and he said, hey, he's too much for me. And I said, okay, we can try to figure this out. And then I bought into him. Harry was a probably one of the hardest going, just get it done in a flashy hurry dog I've ever hunted with. More drive than any dog I've ever seen, probably. And the other thing about Harry, and I can tell stories about Harry all night long, he was not very accurate at all when he was young. And I think that's what Goat said, he was too much for him, because I think I probably wore my rotator cuff out on him when he was young. And never really got a chance to show the world what he was really capable of, unfortunately. He got up to being about 80-85% accurate, but he got real sick on me, and I took him to the vet. His throat was all swollen up, and they actually removed his tonsils. And after that, he sounded like a chihuahua.
Yeah.
So his competition hunting was pretty much done at that point in time. He sounded horrible. But I think, when Harry would have been 4 or 5, he probably would have been a big force to reckon with. He just never kind of got that opportunity, unfortunately, because of that medical issue he had. But yeah, he very, very intense tree dog, very clean tree dog, get through the country, did not care what other dogs was doing. I could pull him off of a tree and there could be 3 dogs treed this way, and if I pointed his head that way, he would be straight line that way, treed somewhere. And never seen Harry walk off a tree. Like when he parked, good, bad, or indifferent, and there was a lot of bad. There was a lot of bad, but never, I mean, done. He was done.
You said you got females then, and is that primarily what you hunt now is females?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So Tyler and I differ on this dramatically. I would prefer to hunt a female every day of the week, and if God ever added extra days, them too. I just do not enjoy hunting a male dog. I have hunted a couple of males here and there. They're very, very few, far in between. I really like a female, and I think it's just because my temperament and how I train probably just correlates better with females than males, I think. And there's just a couple of things males do I can't handle. I can't handle them males stopping every 15 yards to take a leak, hike their leg. I don't like dealing with that. I just think they're not as intelligent as a female. I think they're more stubborn. I'm just talking in generalities here. I just and they're just sloppy. A lot of them are just sloppy, right? I'm hunting a male now. We'll leave that for a different story. But and I like the dog, and he's going to be fine. But he's just sloppy. You give him some water in the box, he's got it all over the box. He's foaming at the mouth and drooling and he's just sloppy. I just don't like it. So,
and you primarily like male. Has it always been that? Like you prefer hunting male dog?
No, I started out
With the female.
racket, but she ended up passing away having puppies, and I don't know. I got out of coon hunt for almost a year after she died.
Yeah.
Because that was my buddy. Like she rode in the truck with me. Like we did everything together. She got sick one time. I brought her in the house. Like, I just loved that dog. And then after she died, that's when I think I pretty much made the transition to males. I don't know if it's just because I don't feel like being behind another female because of the deal. But I just have never hunted a female since. Like I'll handle a female for Dad or Burchel or whoever's got one that needs some wins on it or something. But as far as keeping it at my house, feeding it and hunting it every night, probably ain't gonna happen.
Well, it works out then. You can keep one of each. Then if you breed a dog, you can have a female. You can have a male.
Yeah.
It keeps too many the way it is.
Well, it's hard, right? So, I had somebody ask me this question here about probably 6 months ago. They said, and they asked me, they said, are you a competition hunter? You a trainer? You a breeder? And I said, I don't know. I think I dabble in all of it. But goat definitely likes to raise pups.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's been a long time since I've bought a pup outside of the kennel. I did just buy a female pup here about 3 months ago, but her bottom side came from our kennel. And so we're kind of right now in the kennel, we're a little wonky. We're kind of tight on a couple of different crosses we made, which have been exceptional. So I had to get something a little bit outside of that realm with what I have that I want to cross back in. But so probably a breeder that hunts, I don't know. I like playing with genetics. I like playing with traits. I like the next generation. Very seldom will you see me hunting a 5 or 6 year old dog at a hunt. I'm usually, by that time, in my mind, they should already shown me what they can do. Probably have them titled out, by then. I usually title them out pretty early. And in my mind, their next job is to give me the next one. I want that next generation. What can I, work with, train on, promote, see what we got. Always trying to get better. So
I can't tell you how many dogs, like we'll say Lady for instance. So Lady, the one we've bred to Frog, he's bred to Frog twice now. That is a coon treeing dog. Like that dog is fun to hunt. She climbed a tree one time. I had to climb up and get her 50 foot out of the tree or she'd have died, and she has not been in a hunt since. And that is a female that could probably win something big if she was hunted down and had the chance. But they're worried about the next generation.
Yeah.
And so that dog has not been cut loose other than a handful of times for people to see, or Dad, the pleasure hunter, or the video we made.
Yeah.
And that is one of the better dogs I personally think Dad's owned. And nothing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's, especially anymore as expensive dogs are, like, can you make enough money in a lifetime to buy a dog like that you've bred and raised and trained yourself? Like, that's such a different experience. Like, there's a lot of people out there have a lot of money that can buy a good dog, but you can't buy that experience of knowing that you selected these dogs through generations, decided to make that dog exist by having these two dogs breed, and then raise, train, and if you title them out, then like, you're doing it all yourself. So the money can't buy that. So then I wouldn't sell a dog like that or hunt a dog like that either.
Yeah, it was interesting. Lady is super nice. She is a super nice female, and Tyler's absolutely correct. I granted her out before she was, I think she was probably 18, 19 months old when I granted her out. I put some PKC money on her. In my mind, I wanted to have a Grand Night and a PKC champion. I'm not, and I'll be honest with you, Clayton, I'm not big on the females like winning a bunch or having a bunch of titles. I know what they are. That's good enough for me. If I think they're good enough to, to breed and carry on genetics, then I'm okay with that, whether they have a title or not. And I've got a really different stance on breeding than most people do, and that's a different story. But anyway, Tyler's correct. We were hunting out of Harrod, Ohio, and Lady was 50 plus feet up in a tree, raining. Sat out there for 5 hours. Actually called my other son and Tyler, who's my other son's a fire chief here in Gerber Hill. They brought over a 50-foot tri-extension ladder from the fire department. There's 8, 9, 10 grown men at the bottom of this tree. I am petrified of heights. I sat out there in the woods and watched Lady stand in this tree, probably 60 foot for a long time. And anyway, I didn't see a scenario where she was coming out of there alive. And the only thing I kept thinking was, those genetics are going to be gone. Like I'm going to lose those genetics. And it was, it was sad to me. I never thought, I could have won a world hunt with her. I never thought, I could have made her a Grand Night 3 or, won a bunch of money in PKC. I just kept thinking about these genetics. And so they brought the ladder out, hooked it all up, and, 8 grown men, and Tyler's like, I'll go get her. So thankful for Tyler, because I couldn't do it. He up there, shimmied out a limb. I think we had probably 11, 12 lead straps hooked together. He still ended up dropping her a little bit. We caught her. And I told him then, I said, she will never be in another hunt until I get a litter of pups out of her. And everybody said, no way. You've been doing a bunch of winning with her. She's super nice. Never. She was never in another hunt until we had a litter of pups. And then the pups turned out really well. That first cross on her and Frog was pretty strong. And value, there's a small circle, a group, I call it my group. And, we talked, and I said, I think she's more valuable standing in the kennel, passing on those genetics, than she is being in the hunts, and she's never been in another hunt.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds good for the people hunting that dog has won something. I mean, but I don't know what your opinion is, but if I'm looking to breed a dog, I really don't care what it's hunted or how many competition hunts it's won, because that doesn't tell me if it can have pups that can tree coon. That tells me it can compete in a cast and win a cast if it's given the right opportunity, but it doesn't say anything about its genetics or reproduction or anything like that.
Oh, we're going to go down this road already, huh? All right, so here we go. I think when a dog draws its first breath of air at 2 minutes old, that dog's either a reproducer or it's not. I don't think it matters what it wins. I don't think it matters what it does. I don't think it matters if it can tree a coon or not. I think when that dog draws its first breath of air, it's either predisposed to passing on genetics that make viable offspring that you can hunt, tree coons with, or not.
Yep.
Case in point, 30, 40, 50 years ago, everybody bred to the world champion, right? And some of them were reproducers. Some of them were not. And I mean, I think that's my best case scenario on that. But I do agree with you, Clayton, and I'll even go one step farther. I really don't care what the dog does. For instance, Burchel, Phrogger is an amazing animal. Phrogger is a coon treeing machine. You've seen it, I've seen it. Pretty much anybody that's hunted with him seen it. It's not why I bred the frog. Bred the frog because I've seen his offspring. When you start seeing 12, 15, 16, 20 young dogs that are doing good work, you know, accuracy's there, more often than not, way above average mouth, I put more into the offspring I see out of a dog than I do the dog itself. Because, like you said, that dog can be phenomenal, but I don't care what that dog is. I want to know what he's throwing.
Yeah.
Or what she's throwing.
Right.
You know, it goes both ways. So, now I do think different lines, different, you know, throw different traits, different characteristics. And you know, we done some podcasts on the whitey dogs. You know, you're going to get accurate dogs. You know, you're going to get trailing type dogs for the most part. There's always an abnormality in there somewhere, but for the most part, you know what you're getting with that line of dogs. You know, the Sackett Junior dogs. You know, you're going to get good hard tree dogs. They may not be quite as accurate. With age, they get better. So different lines have different traits that tend to pass on. You know, a higher percentage of the time. But I don't think it matters if that dog's won $500,000. That doesn't mean it's going to reproduce. I mean, we all know it. All of us coon hunters know a story of an old dog tied out behind the barn and accidentally bred something and threw an amazing animal, right? So I just believe a dog is born, and when it's born, it's going to throw traits that are viable, or it's not.
Yeah. And with competition hunting, when it's born, a lot of its success with competition hunting depends on its early life, how it starts, and who ends up with it.
Oh,
which
absolutely.
is all a human factor. With reproduction, that's a genetic factor that's pretty much out of your hands unless you are selecting who they're breeding to.
Yep.
So that's kind of like what you said. It's more important what the pups are doing, because more than likely if that dog's outstanding and you want to breed to it, you're not going to own it. That person's not going to sell it. So you got to get a pup for yourself and then do it that way. You talking about trailing dog, like the style of dogs. I was wondering, Tyler, what type of dogs do you like to hunt? Does it matter if they're trailing or hot nose, cold nose, or just accurate?
Most of my stuff I hunt out of what Dad has done.
Yeah.
So I kind of went a different route as Dad. After Racket died, I think when I got back in, I started hunting for people. So I would take their dogs, train them, get them ready for a hunt, and ask them if they want to go to the hunt. And I've been blessed with that. With Bill Cordy was the first one I handled. I got Crook for him. Awesome guy, awesome relationship. And then I started hunting for Adam Eblin, which is a Phrogger dog that's out of his lady female. So everything I've owned has been the old style coon dogs, if that makes sense. And then I bought Jake would be the one I would consider the most new style. But he's still going to grub up a track and run it. Whatever track he comes to, he's going to run. So I guess I really don't have a preference. I personally, it don't matter about, a lot of people like tree dogs. That don't bother me as long as they have coons when they park. I would rather them have coons. I'd rather listen to them. I'm like Bill, I'd rather listen to them run for an hour than have a coon than make 8 trees. I just don't find any enjoyment in walking to 8 trees.
He's got a preference, Clayton, and it's accuracy.
Yes.
Because he had one here that wasn't very accurate, and he could not handle it.
I had this female, and this female just drove me up the wall, man. I walked to 12 slick trees one night. I called Dad. I said, I can't do this. I can't. Yeah.
Tyler's been spoiled, right? So he's always had kind of the ability to get something nice to hunt.
Yeah.
And it's usually something that's bred more for accuracy, because that's when I'm breeding, my number one priority is accuracy. They have to have evidence animals when they tree, and so he's kind of been accustomed to that. And then when he gets one that's not that way, then he struggles.
But we believe different in as far as what the dog does, if that makes sense. As far as I like mine deep and lonely, he calls it ambush style. I like that style. I want them off by themselves the opposite way of the dogs. I don't care how many coon they pass up. They're going to be by themselves. Does it frustrate me walking past the coons? Yes, which it's whatever. That's that's why I like. I don't know why. I like the dog that sink in there, point 8, have a coon, and yours can do whatever it wants. I don't care. I'll wait for yours to mess up. If it don't mess up, congratulations. But he likes the dog. They come to a track, they run the track, that style. So we argue back and forth about it all the time.
So this is the difference.
Yeah.
I'm old, fat, he's young and skinny. So he doesn't care how far he's walking, I care.
Yeah.
So
we hunt together, and he's like, "Where's Frog at now?" Because he'll shut up and he'll be gone. And I'm like, "Oh, he's across the road in the next section." And he's like, "I'm not walking."
Not doing it.
Yeah. For me, I don't. Kind of what you said. I don't really care what they sound like when they tree, as long as they have a coon. But I do prefer loud dogs. If I wanted something to chop a lot, I also squirrel hunt. They have feists and curs that chop better than just about anything. So if I wanted a chop mouth tree dog that I just wanted 1,000,000 barks a minute, I would hunt something like that. But I want something loud that I can hear a long ways. I don't care if it's a ball mouth, screaming, I just want it to be loud. I want to make a lot of noise and have fun, have them froth up in the mouth, going crazy. I like a loud dog that's accurate. That's what I like. And I prefer them to not go by coon ever. I want them to tree them as they come to them, but I also don't want them to linger. Like, especially if they're with company, I don't want them to linger around. I want them to go, and however far I have to go find work and tree something. But really, I probably don't really care. As long as it sounds good and has a coon, I don't care.
Right?
Don't care what it is.
I just start to get frustrated when I don't know why. Dad yells at me all the time for it. Like, those dogs may run that track together. They run that track together, I'm not as worked up, but then it just seems like they're wanting to, like, if you're going to tree there, tree there. If you're not, get out. So if we're going to do that, then you're just going to be by yourself. You might as well run the opposite way of the dogs, because I'm not going to do the 3rd, 4th tree on a tree when you were running the track the whole time.
Yeah.
So that's where we differ too. I mean, they'll be running together after they make a tree or whatever. We'll be split up, and you know how dogs like to come together every once in a while, then split back up.
Yeah.
And nope, you were already the opposite way. Don't be coming into those other dogs. Dad's like, just let that dog be a dog. I said, no, it was already gone once.
Yeah.
Go back to wherever you came from. Don't even look at the other dog.
Going back to your kennel, talking about different dogs you're breeding, you want to talk about kind of the breeding of what you got now, and I guess you talked about hairy sack, so go from that to kind of where you're at now with the type of bloodline in your kennel.
Well, when I got back from my hiatus from chasing my kids all over the world, we started looking for something that would make me happy, because the boys didn't know, what would make them happy. They just started, and I actually ran across a female, which Tyler called was Racket. She was out of hairy sack and a tracker, Nick almost tracker bred female. She was super nice, super nice. Probably top 3 female I've ever owned in my life, and I would say probably top 10 in any I've ever hunted with. And unfortunately, we breed, we raise puppies, we bred her. We had what I thought was going to be an amazing cross, and unfortunately her pelvis was too small to have puppies. She had a C-section, bad things happened, we lost Racket, and we lost all the pups. So that was rough for Tyler to handle. And then so then you're on the lookout for the next thing, and then that's when Lady came up for discussion. So actually Goat owned Lady with a boy named Crystal, local. His grandfather, Ray Newsome's a local guy here. Ray's a good hound, good dog man, great at starting young dogs. Lady was young. Crystal got her. They called me. They said, "Hey, can you hunt Lady for us? We want her competition ready, and we want to take her to some hunts." And I said, "Sure." So I did that. I called them. I said we had to tweak a few things. I got it tweaked. She's good for the competition hunts. She had already had one win on her in UKC, and I went to a hunt on Friday night and doubled her up, double cast wins. I called him. I said, you better send the papers out tomorrow morning because I'm going back tonight, and I'm going to finish her out tonight. And they both laughed, and I went to a hunt Saturday night, finished her out. Life happens, and Crystal had life happening, and he called me and he said, hey, blah blah blah, I need to sell Lady. Goat doesn't really want me to sell her to anybody but you. I said I absolutely will buy her, so I bought Crystal's half out at that point in time, and so then we took off with Lady. And in the meantime, I was looking for females to get some genetics back in. I talked Goat into getting back into it with me, and so in the process, we had bought a few hounds, and Goat actually found a hound bred kind of how we wanted. I kind of liked how she was bred. He said, hey, I got this hound, I need you to run down and grab her. So I ran down to grab her, and that was the No Name female. And out of No Name came the crookie dog that Tyler was talking about, the accordions, Derek Compton's Abby female, the hardwood trash dog in Kentucky, and my Gabby female came out of that cross. And by that time, Lady was old enough that we knew we was going to breed her when she came in. So Gabby's kind of what I focused on at that time. She's off Dylan Eberly, stylish little whitey male. Footnote, stylish little whitey and Our Lady female are full brother and sister, just different litters. Whitey was out of the first litter, Lady was out of the second litter. I liked what Lady did, so that's why we decided to breed No Name to Whitey, and it worked out. It was a very solid cross. So then I hunted Gabby, done a bunch of winning with her, got Lady bred in the process to Phrogger, and then that brings on Burchel Davis's first Lady female that Gage Wood and another man, I apologize, own. I think they're out in Iowa. It's where we got First Class at, that I call Cass. It's where we got Froggy and Sassy at. It's where Tyler, he's hunting Eblin's Frog Dogs, what I call him, of Adam Eblin's. Very, very, very solid cross there. And then it just started to snowball after that. So you win with Gabby, you breed Lady again. That produced the butter female I'm hunting. That produced the male I'm hunting now. I'm gonna get him titled out here shortly, hopefully. And then as you're doing that, then I just had Gabby's first litter of pups, and I took Gabby to Frog and crossed Gabby on Frog. Gabby's probably one of my favorite females of all time as well. I really like that female. Sid Taylor started her, said she was the most natural starting female he has pretty much ever owned. So if Sid says that, that's something you want to keep in your breeding program, right? Regardless of what she does or how she is. And so we got her first litter. I pretty much got all them pups sold. I think I got them in the right and people's hands. It's going to give them a shot. You really want to make sure that first cross, that first litter he has a chance. And a lot of people know Gabby. A lot of people like Gabby. Billy Cordy's getting a pup. When I've got Billy Cordy and Derek Compton, and some local people that say, hey, I want a pup, that it makes you feel good, right? And they're houndsmen, they're dogmen, and I know we're probably doing something right with the breeding program there. So did I get sidetracked? I can't remember what question you asked me now, Clayton.
Just about from Harry Sack to now, like what basically what's in your kennel, like what do you got?
Yeah, so pretty much everything goes back to Whitey in one way or another. That's what I went searching for when I came back from and when I came back, Clayton, what I found hot-nosed dogs that couldn't trail that coon, couldn't run an old track. I wouldn't want to hunt them with the leaves off, to be honest with you. And it could have just been what was available, at that time when I was trying to find this stuff. And I looked all over. I bought a dog out of Texas, an older female. We got the No Name female. We stumbled upon Lady, thankfully. So, it was hard. I got a couple of whitey bred females out of Kentucky. Met a great man by the name of Lonesome out of West Virginia. He got some whitey stuff up here for us, and and then we just started crossing and breeding and trying to figure it out. So,
I guess we can transition then into more like starting dogs. So we talked a lot about genetics. I guess since you've been hunting for a while, kind of like the same style and line of dogs, is there any methods or anything you like to use to get them started when they're young?
So I think so this is what I think anybody that's starting hound needs to know. I think every dog's like raising kids. I had 4 boys. Some of them are rambunctious, some of them aren't. Some of them are ready to do things at a younger age than other ones. So every pup is different. I don't think you can just do one training style for everything you got. I think that's the first thing. The second thing is, I think a lot of people buy pups and they think they can just buy a pup when it gets 6 months old, cut it loose, and it's going to run true a coon, and that's not the case either. So if you don't have some experience with starting young dogs or pups, you need to find somebody that does. We talk about mentors in the coon hunting world and having people, and everybody needs some help. I firmly believe that. And then from there, there's a million things. A lot of people like to start them on drags. A lot of people like to start them on, rolling cage coons. I don't really have a preference as far as that goes. I'm probably more so, I don't do any of that. I'm probably the oddity here, but I usually just go out, sit in the middle of the woods, find me a nice log. We were just talking about this earlier before the camera was rolling. Cut the dog loose and let it be a dog. Eventually it's going to run a deer, tree a possum, tree a squirrel. Because they should be bred to chase and pursue game and then to look up. But then if you get one that tends to trail a little too much, then I've listened to other people with your podcast, and then I've been around them. I do agree. You got to show them dogs that they look up. So then, once they start chasing stuff, and then I may go to a cage coon or a turn loose coon that they can actually see climb, so they can see the game, so that they get looking up. I know a lot of people use hot dogs and bologna, and they got them looking up when they're 8 weeks old, 12 weeks old. It's all fine, but I'm just kind of old school. I just kind of. I'm patient enough to sit in the woods and just let a dog be a dog. And sometimes I think we lose sight of that. I think everybody wants these dogs trained at 6 months old. I don't even start my dogs until they're 9 months old. Don't even, nothing. Lead, load, know their name, come to me when I call them. Other than that, they're just dogs. We don't even start working on being a hound until they're about 9-10 months old.
Yep.
And there's probably people cringing, hearing that, but it's just worked for me.
And that's the biggest thing that I hope anyone listening to this will understand, because that's people ask me all the time is what I do or what other people say they do to get dogs started. And anyone can give you any advice, but the best thing you could do is just try it. Like, you need to get out there yourself and get the experience, because every dog's going to be different, and what works for me might not work for you. I mean,
right.
Especially how different it is here versus somewhere in Texas or Oklahoma as far as the terrain and the coon population. Like, there's so many different things that go into that. You can't just give a blanket state. Like, there are certain things that tend to work for the most part, just general things, but just get out there and you can listen to any of these methods that I've talked about or other people on interviews have talked about. Just try it and see what works for you and your dog. And then if it doesn't work, stop doing it. If it works, keep doing it, but don't overdo it.
I truly think the biggest thing is the dog has to be ready to learn. And that means it needs to be able to lead. It can't be scared to lead. It needs to know its name. It needs to, the pup, the young dog, it gets rode around in the box. It'll go. I have puppies in the box at Walmart with me. So you got to get all of that out of the way. So when you do take it to the woods, it can be a dog, it can be a puppy, it can do whatever it wants to do, but it can't be scared. It has to be comfortable around you. It has to be comfortable on a lead. You know, all those little things, and I think people miss that piece.
Yep.
So, you know, you're going to the woods and the dog's tangled up and it won't lead, and then you're getting mad. And I truly believe dogs can sense your emotions.
Yeah.
And then it just blows up, right? Like it's just like a nuclear explosion, and then all you are upset and frustrated, and then it just goes downhill from there. The other thing I do want to say is, you know, a lot of people into the rolling cage or cage coons or whatever, and probably I've had 3. Some of the best I've ever owned would never bark at a cage coon.
Yeah.
Absolutely zero interest in it. So don't just stop with one method.
Right.
You know, try a few methods. You're going to have money and time and food and shots and, you know, everything invested in this pup, and then people go, well, I showed a cage coon 3 times and I wouldn't bark at it. I'm done. I've had some that wouldn't bark at a cage coon. Even after they ran and treated and were granded out, still would not bark at a cage coon. So don't just stop at one method.
Yeah, the best female that we've ever owned was out of Acres Joe, and she was the same way. Her entire life would not bark at a cage coon, but you turned her loose, she's going to go tree a coon.
Yeah, and why? It makes no sense, right?
Probably smart enough to know that it's just sitting there in a cage. I don't care.
Yeah, I've got. There's no rhyme or reason to it, but yeah.
Because if all it was just getting them to bark at a cage coon, then you could take a poodle or chihuahua. How many just dogs out there bark at something small and furry? You can go, you can go to Tractor Supply to the dog area. Every toy they have, there's something small and furry. Like, a dog's going to want to play with it, but that doesn't mean that it's going to have the capability or drive to run through the woods and find a track and tree it. Like, so it's a good thing to get them started and introduce them to it, or like you said, get them looking up or something, but it's not the be-all, end-all. If it won't bark at one in the cage, it's never going to make it.
Right. And I'll go back to something you said, too. You know, you talked about what works in different areas, like, you know, what works in Texas may not work up here. Another thing I think people need to realize is, I don't know about everybody, but I do want to say this. I breed for what I want to hunt, because I'm hunting it Monday through Thursday. So if it's not your style or whatever, it's probably not going to work out for you out of my kennel. However, I also breed for them to function here. I don't know if they're going to work in the swamps. I don't know if they're going to work in the dry land of Texas. But they're going to be able to tree coons when there's snow on the ground, frost on the ground. They're going to be accurate. I mean, that's what I'm breeding for. So I had a discussion with a guy at a hunt last night, you know, and he was talking about a certain line of dogs, and he said, man, they just don't make enough trees up here. And I said, well, it's not what they were really bred to do. You know, that line of dogs was kind of bred to get their mouth open, trail around, make 1 or 2 trees in an hour and a half. You know, they're from the mountains. That's what they're kind of bred to do. So, I mean, when you put that up here, sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. So, I think another thing people need to think about, if they are thinking about a young dog or a pup, is, you know, kind of where it's coming from and kind of what those lines are kind of bred to do. Doesn't make much sense for us to have a hound if they can't tree a coon when it's, you know, 5 degrees out, 10 degrees out, because that's when we're hunting.
That's when as soon as the season comes in, that's what happens.
Yeah,
it comes in just in time for the moon to be full and for there to be a foot of snow and about 30-mile-an-hour winds.
Yep.
And that's when season comes in. And then just as it starts getting good, it goes out.
Yep, absolutely.
No, but that's what people...
Welcome to Ohio, right?
Yeah. People, it's easy to hunt. Like, yeah, there's certain times of the year where there's coon everywhere, but what people don't understand is there's also a majority of the time we're hunting, it's 30 degrees or below, and there's ag fields, but some people don't realize that they do take their crops off when it's ready to be harvested, so that food source is gone.
Yep.
And there's, obviously up here it's flat and open, so there's a lot of wind. A dog has to be able to smell a coon on an old track or a layup. Like, it's difficult certain times of year, and it still does get hot here. I mean, we're in the north, but it still does get 90s and 100 and still super humid.
Yep.
I mean, there are times it's easy, but then there's times where, like everywhere else, it gets pretty rough.
We get it all here, and I was always amazed too. You know, I'd have friends come up from southern states when that frost settles, right? them dogs are lost.
Yeah.
You know, and so I always thought, do they not have frost, you know, in the South? But, you know, a couple of you guys like, we ain't never seen nothing like this. You know, the frost when it just glistens out in them fields. And, that, you know, if you can cut a hound loose in that, then you're running tree coon consistent, you got something.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I'm stupid because that's any time in the wintertime when they're broadcasting that there's going to be a blizzard or just something terrible. It's like, I am going hunting tonight. I don't care if there's 3 foot of snow on the ground, if it's 20 below zero. I'm going tonight. I want to see what this dog is going to do tonight. I want to tree a coon when there's 5 foot of snow on the ground so I can say I did it and see if that dog's capable of it. So that's just, that's what I say now when I'm a little bit older. I don't know. Hopefully I have an enclosed snowmobile or something by then.
Yeah, it can be bad. I remember the video we did with Dylan and Bill Cordy and Greg Mayer. That was a horrible night, and those dogs still produced animals.
Yeah, that was a
and
very,
it was
very
absolutely
rough night.
miserable.
It was snowy, frosty, super windy, and it was about 5 degrees, I think.
Yeah.
Who knows what the wind chill was? Probably below zero. But yeah, the terrain is relatively easy right in this area, but then you go to the southern part of the state, it gets a lot thicker and hillier. But weather-wise, we get everything. We get a really nice fall, we get a really hot summer, a little bit of everything in the spring. Winters are usually terrible. I mean, a dog gets a good dose of everything up here.
Yep.
The only thing it doesn't get is just like mountains, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah, me too.
Well, is there anything else you want to add before we get off here? And
Not that I know.
what are you hunting right now,
Me?
Tyler? Yeah.
I've been hunting frog, and then I have a young pup in my kennel that's out of Bernadine and Frog, which goes back to Whitey
Yeah.
a couple times.
How old's that pup?
About 13 months old, I believe. 14 months old, right around in there, I believe.
I
can't
even
remember
know.
his exact birthday, but he's just running track right now. I sent him off probably at a year old to a running pen, so I owe that guy a lot of credit. For at that time he just knew how to lead roughly, and that guy took him.
Don't say his name because he'll be upset
Yeah, that's
because
why
he
I
doesn't want any more business.
That's why I didn't say. Took him, got him leading, loading, running track, and then he said, "Hey, come get him." So I came and got him, and he's still running track now. Just hasn't figured out that stuff climbs.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of in that frustrated mode right now. Just,
At least it's going to get hot and dry here pretty soon.
Yep.
That'll help.
I take him out about once a week. I try.
Yeah.
And just let him run. Hey, you don't bother other dogs. That's the one thing I like about the Whitey stuff. It's frustrating at the time.
Yeah.
But every dog I've hunted out of Whitey has been naturally independent. So that dog, when I cut an old dog with him, he runs the opposite way.
Yeah.
So you kind of just gotta let the dog do what the dog's gonna do. And I'm not a pup guy. I won't lie to anyone. I don't like messing with pups. I do not find any enjoyment of it. Now you give me a dog that's running and treeing or making some trees, yeah, that's where I like it. So this has been all kind of a new experience for me, honestly.
Tyler's not a starter. Tyler's a polisher.
Yeah.
So that's where Tyler excels at. I do want to say, I do want to thank a few people. I mean, nobody gets through this without help, right? So I'd mentioned earlier, you know, I kind of got my little group. So Charlie Atkins, I got to give a shout out to Mr. Atkins. He had first class cast down there for a long time. And she's came into her own right now. She's out of Frog and Lady. She's qualified for the UKC World Hunt Zones. Got her in the Tournament of Champions this year. Already qualified for the Tournament of Champions, you know, next year. Grand Night. Got her in at Spring Classic and PKC. So lots of thanks to him. He's got another dog hound down there now. He's working with. He's became a good friend. I want to thank Burchel Davis, another good buddy of mine, great man. Bill Cordy for letting me use the Fug Seaman on Lady, and that cross has worked out well. I'm gonna title the second one out of that cross out here pretty soon, the Billy Dog. And so I want to thank Billy especially, and I gotta thank my pup man, Sid Taylor. He started a bunch for me. He started Gabby, started Sassy. He's got a couple of Frog Lady pups down there now. Sid likes to mess with them pups, and I'm glad he does. So I gotta give a shout out to him. And then obviously Goat. Goat's the pup man. Goat takes care of all the hounds, takes care of all the litters, does a great job with that, something I cannot do with my job. And so I gotta give a shout out to him, best partner ever. A lot of people don't understand our relationship with the hounds, but Goat and I's got it figured out, and it's great when you got somebody on the same page as you, with the hounds. And it always amazes me. Lots of people say, well, why do you guys do this, or why don't you do it? And he's like, hey, but Boomer and I's got it figured out. No need to worry about it. So tons and tons of thanks to Goat, because without him, I wouldn't be breeding. No. With my job, I just couldn't do it. No. He's phenomenal with pups, and does a great job there. So kind of want to get. And if there's anybody else I forgot, I apologize. I got lots of. Greg and Dylan Eberly too. They own Stylish Little Whitey. Greg's actually hunting a dog I own, Mouse. I think we were talking last night. I think we've got 6 titled females in the kennel right now. Either night champion or grand, or even more than grand, and some PKC champions, whatever. But Greg's hunting Mouse, and he does a great job with her. And Dylan, anytime I call and say, hey, I think I want to make a cross on Whitey, he's like, come on over. We'll get it done. So they're kind of like you though, Clayton. Those boys will call me and they'll be like, let's go hunting tonight. And I'll be like, there's an 80% chance of thunderstorms. Every time those boys come over, I get as wet as a drowned rat, or I'm freezing and snow's blowing and everywhere you don't want it to blow. They never want to come when it's nice out, boys. Yeah. So I always wait. I'm like, they'll call tonight because it's supposed to be beautiful and they'll want to go hunting. Nope, they never call. As soon as that forecast says we're going to get poured on, or it's going to be colder than all get out, they're calling, let's go hunt tonight. So yeah, they're a couple of good old boys too. So I just wanted to say thanks. And also thanks to anybody that has bought a pup, tried a pup. I would love to say all the pups make it. They all don't. But the fella that called last week, I said, if it didn't look good on paper and I didn't think it would work, I wouldn't make the cross, right? No. But it's a roll of the dice at best. But we've been pretty fortunate. We've produced quite a few decent ones here lately. I won't say any of them's great, but quite a few decent ones. So, and we'll continue to try to do that. So,
which ones are going to be hunting tonight?
I have no idea.
Whatever we grab.
I probably will not hunt Billy tonight because I did put another win on him last night at Herod. I'll probably hunt Butter and Cass, maybe. I can't hunt. Don't really want to hunt Lady, to be honest with you. Gabby's still on puppies. She's still nursing, so I can't hunt Gabs tonight. So probably be Butter and Cass, I imagine, is what I'll hunt.
What are you gonna hunt?
Probably Frog.
Yeah. All
right. My thank you would be this kind of the same group, honestly. Chucky and me are partners on Jake, which we got from Burchel Davis. Which Burchel has treated me like that man's like a second dad. I call him all hours of the night. He'll give me any advice, whether it be from going to jail or dogs.
Or the same thing.
Yeah, he's gonna give me advice. But there's just a couple other ones, like the guys that put me up and down the road as far as let me make some pocket change for doing what I like to do, like Adam Eblin, Bill Cordy, 2 great guys that I've hunted for a while. But then Trevor Tallman I've hunted for. He's a good dude to deal with. I could not be blessed with the people I handle for. My dad, I handle for him some. He puts me somewhere and gives me a dog to handle. He
don't handle for me much, Clint, because I don't pay him.
So. But those guys, I hear all the horror stories about handling for guys, or everyone having a bad relationship because they handle for so-and-so or what. And I just wanted to thank those guys because it's been a blessing with all 3 of them. They're great people to deal with, great houndsmen. Everyone that's honestly listed is who I've leaned on my whole life as far as from when I've started hunting to get advice. Any of those guys, they're always there.
Well, we're very fortunate up here, right, Clayton? And I think as you've went around and done videos and traveled, there is a definite deep pocket of knowledgeable houndsmen. I'm going to call them houndsmen. And, within 30 minutes, right? 40 minutes to the house, there's a lot of people. And if a feller doesn't have too much ego and can keep his mouth shut long enough and actually listen a little bit, you can learn something. I've done this for a long time. I still learn something, Chucky Atkins and I hunt quite a bit he's a little bit farther off, but I didn't meet Chucky very early in the hunting world, but probably about the last 4 years or so, we've become pretty tight, and I learned some stuff from him when I went down there, and I would think he would say he's learned a few things from me, and that's been a good relationship. And Bill Cordy, Burchel, all of them we mentioned, just a lot of knowledge around here, a lot of well-bred hounds. We don't travel. I don't travel very far to breed. I try to stay local. I think we've probably got as good as anybody does anywhere. Just right around here local, and I'm a gambler. I'll gamble on a dog that may not have produced a lot, but I've seen a couple, or whatever. So been fortunate in that area too. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah.
You can always learn something.
Oh, yeah. Old Adkins. I love hunting with that man. He's like a fountain of knowledge, it seems like. That man's got a story for everything as far as like teaching you to do something.
Yeah.
The first time I ever went up there hunting with him, I had Crook hunting for Bill, and I really didn't say much. He was hunting Chillin', which was a very nice male dog he owned, and I think it was one of Crookie's good nights. It was just treeing coons, and it was dead of winter, coon season. It was cold, it was miserable, and Crook ended up burying in there 8/10 of a mile, 9/10 of a mile off of a pond, and we get in the truck, we're driving around. He just keeps looking at me. I'm not saying anything, I'm just keeps looking at me and goes, "Do you realize you just demolished me?" I was like, I really wasn't paying attention to it like that. We're just pleasure hunting. I mean, you tree coon, I tree coon. I didn't even keep count of how many. He's like, "Dude, you just waxed me and never said anything about it." He goes, and that kind of took off our friendship because I wasn't there to have a competition with him, nor was he. He's like, "You didn't even say anything. You just it was on with life." I'm like, "Yeah." But that man has been great to me. I owe him a lot of things because as far as me being partners with Jake, that dog, he hunts those dogs that he has at his house harder than anyone I've ever seen hunt. That man hunts like that. More power to him. I think I hunt hard. I'll never hunt as hard as Atkins.
Yeah.
He hunts Jake and Bob. And he can transform a dog what you need into a competition dog.
Yeah.
As far as like Jake is his baby. I love Jake to death too, but that's Charlie's baby. He brings that. His granddaughter will take him in the house, and I'm like, well, I can't keep him at my house, Atkins. You just own him. So he keeps 2 dogs ready for a competition. If I call him tonight and say, "Hey, I want that dog," that man will drop anything and bring that dog. Meet me. I know he's gonna be ready for competition.
Right.
I can't ask much more from Atkins. He's a good dude.
Well,
he'd make a good podcast, Clayton.
I've had him in some videos.
You have.
Yeah. I'd be more than willing to have him on a podcast.
The only problem with Atkins is he wants to hunt that government land. So if we go on a hunt, you better be ready on that government land.
That's where I make or break a dog.
Yeah.
Take them up there and just keep recutting them and see if they're gonna make it. You'll know if they'll make it.
Yeah.
He's got more stories than an oak tree out back though.
He's a wealth of knowledge, and he has hunted a lot of nice hounds.
Yeah.
Not necessarily owned them, but has been behind them, trained them, hunted a lot of nice hounds. He's a good dude. He's the only man that did not like Gabby, though.
Really?
I'm just going to throw that out there. He said, I don't know, because you brought better than her, and he goes, I don't know if she's going to make it, Chad. I said, well, I see a little something in her, so. Yeah. So Atkins, I had to say that too. I just got to keep reminding you.
Well, thank you for sitting down and doing this.
Yeah, it's always a
having
good time with
Yeah.
you, Clayton. So,
Well, we'll get off here and hopefully it doesn't rain anymore. We can go tree some coon.
yeah, I'd prefer not to do that tonight, for sure.
Watching the time.
You might want to be coming in. No, they don't anymore.
Can't have no fun at the bars no more, Chucky.
What are the odds?
Rabbit thicket, Clayton.
What's that?
This is a rabbit thicket. So you get back to the woods.
Dad, back to the truck. I ain't chasing them no farther. We're close right here, the field edge, ain't we? Yeah, we can do field edge. Well, I have to throw my old vest away and break out the one I got for the place in the world hunt.
This is Frog. He's out of Lady and Phrogger. Making sure he didn't have no friends coming.
While we wait on him to get struck, you want to tell us what you turned loose the first time?
This is Cass. You've seen her before in a couple videos here and there. She's actually littermate sister to Adam Eblin's frog dog, and she's out of Simple Man Stylish Little Lady and Phrogger himself. Book him, Dano.
Sounded good on it. You did a good job, bub.
We're getting ready to take the dogs to the woods tonight using the Dogter Pathfinder 2 GPS tracking system.